lie.
I'm going to lie and try to act normal and say...
It's like that alone when you say it. It's hysterical. Your wife should walk in here and hit you with a frying pan.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe just a fly swatter? Maybe.
That's actually...
Because I wouldn't want to be injured.
No, we don't want you to be injured. But we do
disgusting.
want a message to be delivered to you.
That I shouldn't be so half-assed? I should just lean into it?
Lean into it.
Be real?
Be you. Do you.
Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I have Fr3deR1cK Taylor with me. Hey, should I call you Fred or Frederick? I admit, I have heard...
so many different variations.
And I've always stuck with Frederick because when I meet someone, I stick with what they tell me the first time. But I am aware that like your business partner over dinner will call you Fred.
Yes.
And I think to myself, am I being less familiar?
No. It's an evolution. You kind of come in Frederick, and then it becomes Fred as we get to know each other. And then we're somewhere 3 sheets to the wind, and it's like, hey, Freddie, where'd you go, Freddie? What's going on, man?
I can promise you I'll never get to Freddie. Even on my, if I have, by the way, I'm a super lightweight. First drink, I feel it. Second drink, I'm out. I'm just like sloppy. But I grew up with a bias from my mother, which was... and I know it's weird considering she named her son Jeffrey, but she was greatly against the nicknamey thing of adding a Y. Like, she just never called me Jeffy, never called my brother Matty, and she expressed to us how much she didn't like it. So I inherited that. Like, I can't get it out of my head. Like, I don't have anyone in my life that I call that. Except the little furry guy over there, actually. I do call Chester Chessie, but it's because he's half a pound and furry.
Yes, generally lower forms of life deserve more sort of cutesy, adorable names. You know, that makes sense to me.
And for those who don't know me well enough, Chester's a guinea pig, so calling him Chessie is... You
should have left that ambiguous, that somehow you have this short, cute, furry friend running around your house.
I do have a short, cute, furry friend who really just sees me as a food delivery device.
Or people would say that Buddy Hackett lives at his house.
Buddy. So
he was short and cute and furry. Buddy Hackett. For those of you that don't know, Google Buddy Hackett.
One of the funniest motherfuckers
Genuinely
ever.
Weirdly funny. Like, just, like, you know, you go back and you look at him and you're like, he was really funny. You don't see that kind of humor anymore. Lost art form. You know, Chris Farley was probably the last person that had kind of Buddy Hackett. He was deprecating. John Candy had it. I think, you know, Buddy Hackett is in that lineage of, you know, that Abbott and Costello kind of thing.
Delightful. Yeah. A bit hapless, but
never meaning any
self-aware.
harm. Yes, exactly.
And of course, they were probably geniuses, right?
Absolutely. Smartest guy in the room, knows how to play stupid.
Yes, and every time there was a comedy duo with the funny little chubby guy and the straight man, it was almost always the funny little chubby guy was the one with the brain for business who ran everything, right?
I bet you Joe Pesci liked Buddy Hackett.
Of course. Hell yeah.
Because he's the guy that waddles over and says, hey, what are you guys doing over here? You know, can I get in on some of this? Like, that's Buddy Hackett.
All right, well, we're at minute 4, and I'm about to not get on topic, but I'm about to talk about the number of times you've been on this podcast.
Good Lord.
Because I have it in front of me. So, in September of 2022, and we are speaking now in March of 2025. So... 2.5 years ago, you came on and talked about pre-existing freedom.
Ooh.
And that was episode number 294. And then, I can do the math, 7 months later, you were in LA. And for episode number 380, we called it Fr3deR1cK and Jeff Shoot the Shit number 1.
I like that one.
We just shot the shit.
And I enjoyed that immensely.
And then... 3 months after that, episode number 401, you came on, and I mean, I titled that one "Where Is America the Beautiful?" But we probably shot the shit.
Absolutely.
But we talked about that great film, and Then 5 months after that, episode number 423. I think we called it "Shoot the Shit," but there might have been
part 2.
Yeah. But one of these was something else actually. But I'm doing a bad job. And then 6 months after that, exactly 6 months almost, you came on for episode number 441, and I'm calling that "Shoot the Shit" number 3.
Yeah, so there you go. Kind of like Rocky 3. So
somewhere in there was the dance film. We used the dance film as a reason.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Jay setting.
Emmy award-winning dance film. PBS Emmy award-winning dance film.
A great film.
I think so too. Something I'd love to see more of in the future and build on it and revisit it as well.
Inspiring.
Completely.
And so that was, and then less than 2 months later, you came back again. So just 8 episodes later, for number 449, we shot the shit.
Look at that. Wow.
And then 4 months after that, for number 464, we shot some shit. And now this one, I believe, and my math could be wrong, but this is now episode number 519. So your 9th time, right? Number 9.
Uh-oh.
So from September of 2022 to March of 2025, we've sat down on microphones, really just enjoy each other's company 9 times.
Truly.
First time was really an interview, but during that interview, we became friends.
It devolved into a friendship.
we fucked up and turned what could have been a good working relationship into just like, let's
You mean
talk
it's not a
about Charlie's
transactional
Angels.
relationship? It's not strategic? We're not trying to acquire Greenland or Panama or Canada?
How could we acquire Canada when I talk about moving there half the time?
I want that to have the irony. You get out of your van, the door slides open, you cross the border, and you think like you're at freedom, and you get there, and there are American soldiers right there saying, "Welcome back to America," and you fall to your knees screaming with your hands towards the heavens, yelling "No."
My Buddy Hackett style fake stupidity is, I've got 2 words for you: sailboat. I know it's actually 1 word, right?
It is, and that's the Buddy Hackett style stupidity.
You take a sailboat out, and then you come into Vancouver Harbor, and unless the U.S. soldiers are in Vancouver proper, which I don't think the Mounties would allow. Those guys with the red things on the horses.
But you also have to be able to sail the boat too, and you got to go out to sea and then come back into inland.
There's flaws with the plan.
There are some great ones,
but they can be ironed out.
You're going to end up on some deserted island.
You're telling me I couldn't find, let's just say, call them a liberal motherfucker who knows how to sail, and say, hey, let's sail to Canada tomorrow, because apparently President Newsom isn't lining up he just lost control of the reservists or whatever, the National Guard that's California based. I don't know. Wow, we got that went there. We went to the politics thing.
You stumbled into that.
Well, no, you brought up. I thought you brought up. Oh, you mentioned a couple of terrible political things going on.
I did. Greenland, Canada.
Greenland, Canada. That's right.
Panama.
Just the expansion of U.S. territory.
Exactly.
Which really
the control of the Western Hemisphere
for a long time. Because, the funny thing is, after we seize Canada, at least their taxes will go down. So anyway, fuck me. All right.
Because they love us.
Do you want to talk about the pivot?
We could. Where do you feel your heart is taking you?
I feel like if we don't bring up the pivot and the beautiful photography that you've shared with me, we might not get to it. Whereas if we talk about the photography now and the pivot,
right, then we can get to the thing.
We'll end up with Charlie's Angels.
We
in
will.
Canada
We'll end
anyway.
up.
We can't keep
on
ourselves
top of
out
Charlie's
of there.
Angels.
We're like there's a force of gravity that is current events that we're both not orbiting. Our orbits are shrinking, and we are going to end up. We are going to end up on planet politics.
Right. You know that you randomly brought Charlie's Angels into this conversation, and no one listening to this podcast has any idea why you decided to just mention a 70s action television series.
Such good action, too. Like, those karate fights were so believable.
There is the recesses of your mind where it is just...
I'm not sure I can remember anything about that show.
It's like a long staircase down into an old dingy basement that you're scared to go.
I mean,
your mind.
Of my mind.
Your mind. And down there...
Being like 11 and watching ABC. It was probably Thursday at 8 p.m. because that was a great time.
Was it 8? I don't think it was 8.
It should have been 9 at least.
I'm sure it was 9.
It wasn't 10. I don't think I could be up that late.
Because that was Vegas with Dan Tana and Robert Urich.
By the way, I will always think of him as like an archetype of coolness.
He was around a long time.
He was around a long time?
Yes, and he played Rocky Blyer in the Rocky Blyer biopic. That was a TV movie that's on ABC.
Wasn't he also in like that crazy Day After Tomorrow, End of the World thingy?
He might have been.
I think he played like the president.
He might have been. He was in SWAT, that TV show too.
If he were alive today, I'm sure he is still alive.
No, he's dead.
Okay, if he had been born 30 years later, he would have been in the era where TV actors and movie actors could move back and forth between platforms.
He'd be huge.
But
he would be ridiculous.
Instead, he was TV only, and you're only allowed to be on the little box.
That was the way that it worked. You know, that's the Bruce Willis line. Bruce Willis was the one that I think that really changed that dynamic. Because he went from a major TV star to a major action star. And then that opened the door for Clooney as well. He was a TV star, and a lot of other people just really transitioned. You know, Murphy, actually Eddie Murphy was one of the first people to be able to do it as well.
SNL was always a way, right?
Right, it was. They had an excuse. And that's because of Lorne Michaels. I mean, Lorne Michaels really saw the potential of like, hey, I got to get these people up on the big screen because they aggregated an audience. I mean, they had an algorithm before we knew or understood what an algorithm was.
When he saw the money that Belushi got for after Animal House for the movies, and he's like, wait a minute, why are people I'm making famous making money away from me?
Well, exactly. I want them to make it here. I mean, you know, Stripes was 81 with Murray and it's off to the races. But it was interesting that he focused a lot more on the men than the women. You know, he dropped the ball with a lot of people for a long time. You know, Lorraine Newman and Jane Curtin and, you know, Gilda Radner did go out on her own and, you know, she really pushed to try to become a star in films. And I thought that Gilda Radner's films were very good. I just think that, you know, it's tough to be a female, meaningful actress and comedian and things like that and be able to do films that have a sense of integrity to them, that aren't sort of marginalized as the bottom line for profit and for exploitation. And I just think Gilda, again, someone that had been 30 years further into the future, she'd be a huge star. You know, she would be an Amy Poehler type. You know,
and Jane Curtin for sure too.
Jane Curtin without it. Jane Curtin 30 years later, 30 years now would be one of the greatest comedians of all time. And I always thought that she was terrific and she was great. I mean, she was just a tick under Lucille Ball as far as I was concerned, but someone that could do things that were a little bit more ironic, like kind of more in the Madeline Kahn space as well. I mean, Madeline Kahn was funny, but Madeline Kahn was also extraordinarily sophisticated and stoic as well. And, you know, funny, always perceived her as sort of non-traditionally beautiful, but then I go back and I rewatch a lot of the stuff, and especially when she's young, and I'm like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. She's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean,
amazing.
Blazing Saddles, her...
Oh, the scene that she has to do with Cleavon Little is just awesome. You know, and at a time when, you know, it was taboo to have an interactive scene between a white woman and a black man that had a lot of sexual innuendo in it as well. You know, and that scene literally ends in the dark and hears their voices in the background, and you hear
the zipper?
The zipper, you know. Is it true? It's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh, that was, No, I'm sure that upset some people.
More Wiener Schnitzel? 4 is my limit on Wiener Schnitzel. You know, great stuff, great dialogue. And no one even writes like that anymore.
Some of those jokes were written by Richard Pryor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
he was supposed to start it, but he couldn't show up to set, so they had to get Cleavon Little, which Cleavon Little ultimately was a better choice.
The studio didn't
Richard was on a bender.
I think Richard, okay. By the way, I just have to mention something about Jane Curtin because I don't fly a lot, but I did fly last year and my phone died or something. So I watched on the headset in front of me, the headrest in front of me, a film called Jules with Ben Kingsley and Jane Curtin that was one of those films where every actor is over 70 and it's delightful in every way. It's like,
sure.
So I just want to mention Jane Curtin is still doing great fucking work.
She's a great actor. She's a great actor.
Good.
She can do. She's one of those people that can do anything, and she is extraordinarily unheralded in the pantheon of Hollywood history. And it's one of the big problems that we have in Hollywood, that we don't take care of our own and we don't celebrate the talents of everyone that has made a tremendous contribution. You know.
And Ben Kingsley. Is one of my doppelgangers.
I thought it was one of your cousins. I was going to line you up. I was going to say cousin, but because in Black people world, the joke is always that's your cousin.
That's your
cousin.
That's funny. Cousin. I've always used the term cousin for everyone I like. But anyhow, the pivot. See, so we didn't get to the pivot.
Yes. Are we moving towards the pivot?
Let's discuss the pivot.
Okay. The pivot is. The
is this a pivot for you personally?
No, it's
or is it a pivot for Tomorrow Pictures?
Yeah, all of the above. You know, where Tomorrow Pictures goes, I go. Where I go, Tomorrow Pictures goes as well. They are two entities or two sort of organisms that move together in the same direction. They sort of echo each other. There is probably some sort of biological term for that as well. I'm not sure exactly what that's called. But that's essentially what we are as an entity. And
and you live in a world and in a country where if someone is a creative, artistic person, they have to create an entity outside themselves to foster it, right?
Completely.
And so you can't just go through life as Frederick. You actually had to create Tomorrow Pictures for taxes and shit.
Well, yeah. You know, you need a shield. You need a sort of a Teflon coating. You need to hide behind a legitimate business. That's what you have to do. You have to create a legitimate business to do business. So that being said, the world has become very challenging. We live in a world now where I've been in development meetings and I've been called a woke filmmaker. I have worked with clients that
and woke means rejection.
That's their fancy way of saying it. Mean you're bad.
You're untouchable.
You're creating negative discourse. You're a problem. You're a rebel rouser. You're lying to our children.
Oh shit! You're dealing with that?
Yes.
I'm sorry to sound shocked.
I love it though when you sound shocked because it's funny. It comes across as funny, considering your own unique background. It's hilarious.
Well. In my perception,
yes,
almost everyone in the industry, at least around me, pretends to be progressive.
They're pretending. Okay.
Yeah. So as a festival runner, when I talk to distribution people, they act progressive. So,
they
the
talk
idea
it all
of
the
them
time.
saying woke instead of them being like, oh yeah, we can sell trans films now because there's a market, you know, like.
Yeah. They don't want to sell trans films because they don't want to put trans films out there because they don't want to go against the discourse of culture and society. And one of the problems with some people that, you know, I think initially they meant well by wanting to do trans films, but they didn't realize the level or volume of resistance. That really shocked them. And this is the thing that people have to sort of wake up to as creators. You've got to get brave. You've got to be prepared for a fight. Somebody's coming for you if you want to get out there and change the world. Just because you know it's right in your heart doesn't make it so. You know, there's a long legacy of people that have been eliminated from the system that were doing good things. You know, some of these people we celebrate, you know, their birthdays as holidays as well. You know, and people are kind of scared to take a punch, and especially people that are, you know, progressive and liberal, you know, because they just want to be right. And conservatives know that, and they just punch them in the face and dare them to say anything. And a lot more liberals need to fight back. I think that is the biggest problem that we have. And again, leading into our pivot, and I've had to make some very radical decisions because it was affecting my work. And there were projects that I was doing that were getting stalled because people were getting afraid. We'd get all the way out to sea, and then all of a sudden, people are getting scared because, they can't see land anymore, and there's sharks circling, and they get afraid, and they just want to go back, instead of continuing to move forward to find a new frontier as well. Not everybody is built to get in the foxhole or to storm the beaches of Normandy. Even though they support the idea, they are still completely and totally overwhelmed with fear. And that's what made people like Harriet Tubman so amazing. She could compartmentalize her fear and say there is something more important than my own fear and my own anxiety and the unknown. And so do I have projects that I've started and had to stop because the people I was working with were afraid to continue to move forward? The answer to that is yes. Are they multiple projects? Yes. Did I take a huge financial hit because of that? Yes. Did this affect my career? Absolutely. It's changed the trajectory of my career. It's elongated the amount of time it's taking me to get from A to B and to get to the point of being really successful where I'm starting to look for property off the coast of somewhere. It's killing me. I now have to have a standard that is beyond just the fact that this is a really good idea and we should do this and this film needs to be made. I don't even care about that anymore. What I care about is the resilience of the individual I'm talking to, their level of character. Can this person survive a war? That's what you need. You got to have some people that got some guts, man. They got to be fearless. I need the dirty dozen with me to be able to go out and fight these things. I've got probably like 4 projects piled up to my eyeballs with people that are too afraid to go ahead and try to get them done and try to finish them. And they're trafficking through race, culture, gender, and gender identity and religious orders as well. And people in the beginning, they're, oh, we really want to do this. Oh, this is really important. Oh, I'm so excited about this. And then when it's like shit hits fan or Trump shit hits fan, they shrink. And I love these people and I'm not criticizing them, but I'm saying hey, you're killing me over here. Because I gave, and all this time and energy and effort that I put into it for free, I didn't get paid. I didn't get a check. I could have taken that and put it into something else. I could have been more selfish. So the pivot is me as a filmmaker, I'm more selfish. That is the only way I can continue to fight the good fight. The good fight isn't fought with having all of these people. We're all working together in these consortiums and collectives and strategic partnerships because they're all a bunch of weenies. They get scared. That's one of the things about conservatism that is right about us as progressives. Snowflakes. We're scared.
They can make them back down.
Oh yeah, totally.
I have to ask. I hate what the answer is probably going to be, but it sounds like what you confronted. Did everything just change last November? So all these people who were willing to work with you, when that election went the way it did they, I want to say misinterpret but did they just basically look at that and go, oh, the tide's turned?
Yeah.
We don't want to be, so literally.
Quitters. Nail and coffin.
If Kamala had won.
Different story.
They would have been like.
They might have opened up.
Yeah, let's celebrate diversity.
Let's try to go get this. Right. But it was building towards that anyway. They were already getting the weak need and things like that.
But it's Zuckerberg just getting knee pads and.
Exactly. And that's. I have not even seen or heard anything like this before in my life. I didn't know people just rolled over like that. I came from a generation where we fought back. And for whatever reason, there are a lot of people who won't and don't. And then a lot of young people who just live scared. And they're like, well, I'm just going to hang out on the weekend and go to my, beer festivals and my comic cons, and I'm just going to hide. And then there are all of these other people that are just like, I'm not going to say anything, and I'll just put things on my social media about it and be upset, but I'll change my name so people can't see that it's me, but I'll say it, but I won't go be about it, as they like to say. And by
putting it on social media, they're actually allowing their thoughts to be ad supporting for...
Yeah, you're making money for the man, basically. They're like, thank you very much. Yeah, you can get on here all you want and bitch and moan about it. And, and then they've opened up the floodgates to the lies, so you're negated, but they're still making all of the ad dollar, and that's why they've opened up for the lies, because they make a ton of money off of the lies. Lies make money, Yeah. It's a big business, the lying. That's why we've always had it. That's why we've made up all of these things. We've got too many Chinese people coming into the country, so they have the Chinese Exclusion Act in the late 19th century, Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. Oh, because we can't have these black people going to the same schools as white people, blah, 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 intercultural whatever. It'll hurt the country. Yeah. They've always put it on.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
It's like they literally, I know.
It's absolutely, positively
and their back,
crazy.
Their back is open as can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They don't do anything. They don't make any changes until they know they're losing. It was like the Boston Red Sox never integrated their baseball team until the early 1960s. Until they just kept losing so much that they're like, okay, we have to get some black guys in here to be able to compete. Bill Russell was the only black person on the Boston Celtics when he started in the 1950s. And by the end of the 1960s, most of the dudes on the Boston Celtics were black as well. And then in between that time, they won like 11 championships. So there you have it, And it's the same way, Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson start Motown Records. They're releasing songs, like I Second That Emotion. Oh, wait, we can't put the band on there because they're black on the album cover. We're going to get two white people sitting in a field of lilies having a picnic lunch as the album cover in order to sell the music.
It's commerce.
Exactly. That's where we are. We are back to that. Hey, if you're Jewish, don't tell people you're Jewish. Hey, if you're black, act like this. Or if you're like light-skinned black person, which is a bullshit fucking narrative anyway, because that's just you're mixed with white, basically, is what that is. But because you have features that look more African in nature, that makes you black. That's fucked. And you're supposed to perform in a certain space based on the gradient color of your skin or the structure of your facial features. That's going to determine who you are. That's going to determine your ability, where you go, where you live, how much money you make, who you can love and can't love or marry or whatever. That's what we're doing. And we're totally, totally cool with that. And I'm not cool with that. And so for me, the great pivot is to stop effing around with these other people and their dumbass ideas about how they want to change the world, and they don't have the guts to change the world. And they don't want to make the sacrifice, and they show up on my doorstep and they don't have any fucking money. And they want me out of the goodness and kindness of my heart because I love telling stories and helping people. I'm going to do it. And I hate to say this, go fuck yourself. Okay, I'm done. So what I do is I depend on me. And so the pictures that I sent you is a collection of photos that I shot when I was working for the State Department earlier in the 2000s, going to Africa, making documentaries about people that were living in the margins. And while I was filming, I was also shooting stills and became very fascinated with it. And some days I wouldn't even go out and film. I'd just take out my still camera and go walk around. And I was able to blend. I could blend. I could go over there to Kenya and just walk, and it was an amazing power that I had never experienced or had before. And it allowed me to be able to deep dive into another culture that was actually my culture, the one that had been stolen from me. I'm the one walking around with the weird Christian name and trying to figure out which country I come from. And people over there keep asking me, so what tribe are you from? What tribe? And I'm like, I don't know what tribe I'm from. I have no idea, And I do now, Bantu. I'm a part of the Bantu nation, and I'm very proud of that. And I really have started to see the value in me reconnecting with me rather than me running around saving all these other people all the time or trying because they don't want to be saved. They don't want to be saved. That's our problem here. We could stop a lot of this stuff tomorrow if we all banded together, but right now, we're afraid. Oh, Donald Trump's going to come get us. He's going to come arrest us. He's going to do what? Do what? He's not going to round us up and take us to camps. No. But for some strange reason, we have some weird idea in our mind that he's going to do something bad to us. He has no power. The only power he has is what we give him and all of his other clown show people that work for him.
I mean, yeah. But when you bring up that person, I have no fear of him because I know he only has one concern, which is just stealing enough money.
Exactly.
He needs to steal, and he wants to stay out of jail.
Right.
So he's aware of the number of crimes he's committed, financial crimes, generally fraud.
Right.
So he just looks at, he looks at criminal bosses.
Yeah.
And Putin is actually the number one
Sure.
organized criminal on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up, of course, worshiping the mobsters of New York who allowed him to be in the real estate business. So, yeah, he's just looking to steal. He doesn't care about actually punishing us for our beliefs.
Not at all.
He's not an ideologue at all. He has no ideals.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, we're pretty safe on that mark. But we're not safe as far as the quality of the country we live in and the quality of the government we have.
Truly. But was France safe during the occupation of the Germans, the country? No, but there were still the French revolutionaries that were in the shadows that were fighting back,
Yeah.
That's how it works. Yeah, the country's not doing well, but we still need to fight. Most of us living here are scared, but that doesn't mean we too need to be scared.
And it's a lack of leadership at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, I think you've heard it from me before, but at this point, I have nothing but rage for the previous administration, for all the opportunities missed. And I think that the history books will be written that accidentally Biden put Trump in office.
Yeah, and the only thing he had to do was stick to what he had said originally. I'm only going to be here for 4 years, and if he had just said, okay, my reign is over, let's have the Democratic primaries, I'm going to be out here and be a spokesperson for supporting the next generation of
he could have said, I prefer Kamala, but let's have an open primary.
Absolutely.
Let's have a real primary.
Exactly.
So that individual would have had the primary process to win with ease.
It's all their whack job egos. I mean, this is where I have a beef with the left in specific to politics as well. With all due respect to, Miss Clinton, Senator Clinton, she should not have run in 2016.
No.
It was Bernie. It was Bernie's
She had been
time.
a senator for 2 years.
Exactly. It was, and she had lost. She had her ass handed to her 4 years before, so she needed to give it up. And she had actually been the first lady for 8 years as well in the 90s. Guess what? You had a great run. Okay, be an elder statesman and calm down. And she got to be the Secretary of State as well under Obama. It's like, come on, how much do you need? How much do you want? The mantle should have been passed to Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders had been given the opportunity, we wouldn't be in this mess. If Bill Clinton hadn't fooled around in the Oval Office, we wouldn't be in this situation either. So a lot of this, we've shot ourselves in the foot. And one of the things that's true about conservatives, that I've always learned in my dealings with them, growing up around them, going to school with them, high school, college, whatever, being friends with them, being a little bit too close or intimate with them, you step on one banana peel, they are up your ass. They got a problem with you. The level of perfection that you have to attain as a black, as a Jew, as a gay, as anything that is different, Asian, Latin, or whatever, to be around conservatives and they like you and like having you around, it's ridiculous. Nobody's that perfect. But they get to be imperfect all the fucking time.
They toe the party line they don't care. Even they'll even say, I mean, I know people who have said to me, they don't approve of the pardons. Oh, I didn't approve of those pardons, but it's like they'll never turn on their own, whereas we turn on our own all the time, and it's absolutely crazy. And they can literally have multiple buckets. I hate black people, but I really love the Super Bowl. They're crazy. And yes. I would tell any of them that they're crazy. They put a black and white American flag sticker with a blue line on it on the bumper of their car. But but their favorite musician is, I know. I get it. I watch these people, self-identified rednecks. I'm not calling people rednecks. I'm calling them what they say they want to be called. They're riding around in their pickup trucks in Tennessee and they're bumping rap music. And they think that's cool, but they don't like black people. They're pulling up brick by brick in D.C.,
Black Lives Matter Plaza, and they think they're doing something good. And they think that these black people in America are going to roll over and take that? Or these other white people that support black people in America are going to take that or roll over? Nobody's going to take that and roll over. And let's be real. The trigger point for freedom in this country has to do with black people because we enslaved them. And the only reason it's not the indigenous people is because we killed them all. So black people are just kind of next up. And then right after that, right on their bumper are the Jews. And how we treat the blacks and how we treat the Jews sets the tone and sets the pace for this entire society. Get the fuck over it. Because these are the two groups that they just constantly assault, but they need. The others, they think they don't need them. We don't need these Mexicans. We don't need these Asians. Who cares? Get them out of here. Whatever. Blah, 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 blah. They do need them. It's obvious. But they're still lying to themselves about them. But they know, these Jews are leverage. These blacks are leverage. That's why they get such a hard on when, there are black people that convert over to their world. But they're idiots.
It's a hell of a gig.
It's a hell of a gig. Candace Owens is an idiot. Tim Scott's an idiot. Clarence Thomas is an idiot. They're dead behind the eyes. You can see it. You can tell. Those are horrible people that will have night terrors when they die. Like, they're just so against, and it's not being against black people. It's being against humanity. It's being against what's right. It's being against, what the next generation of people that are coming along is. We are here for others, always, always, because people were here for us. We're sitting here talking to each other with pretty good lives in spite of everything going on, because all these people that we sometimes in these podcasts make fun of, our parents, our grandparents, and our cultural lineage, they sacrificed. You and I could go blow for blow with the shit in the history of your family and the shit I know in the history of my family, and it would be of equal mass and volume.
Equal amounts of sacrifice.
Unbelievable. Beyond anything that I can even remotely imagine. And I hope that you and I have those kinds of guts if faced with those types of circumstances.
But it is that it's respecting that history.
Yes.
And then wanting to project it to the future
Without
and care about the future generations.
Right.
And that is actually what kills me in a lot of ways, is that, and I don't know, sometimes I'm blaming it on the narcissism of the baby boom itself, but just complete turn against the future, complete turn against that. I need everything to be as good as possible for me right now.
Right.
Even if it means bankrupting my grandchildren, like having them live in squalor.
Oh yeah, it's in the now. I mean, it's like, drill baby drill. Like, really? We're going to take more oil out of the ground? We're going to continue to deforest areas that are national treasures? What are we doing? We're going to put more crap into the atmosphere, more CO2, so we'll all just die of the greenhouse effect?
Well, and to shit on the people I support, I greatly support Los Angeles' mayor, actually. And I personally know an unhoused person who is housed because of Karen Bass's policies. But I can also tell you that I got a letter from the city of LA that was so arcane and confusing about a new regulation in regards to my parents' home, which I still own,
right,
and it's a rental. And I tried to take care of it, and it was an arcane bureaucratic nightmare. And I'm like, this is how you're robbing future generations with unaffordable housing, because you are making sure that it's too expensive to build, too expensive that, too hard to get a permit. We are ruining the future because we're dumb.
Yes.
We're
short-sighted.
We feel, we put up our dukes. We're like, okay, just because the conservatives they pretend they want a libertarian world, but they don't. But because they're anti-government, we're so pro-government that we didn't.
But they're not anti-government either, because they want government to walk into certain instances and do things to control people. They like government when it works for them on their time and on their belief systems and their paradigms, then government's great. Oh, if you could go into these low-income areas and just kick the shit out of these black people to keep them from robbing and stealing and doing all this other stuff, absolutely. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care if black and brown kids go to college or not. And then if they act out or do something bad, just throw them in jail. That's how they feel. They do want a certain amount of institutional control. They just want control over institutional control, and they don't want it to be a democracy, and we all vote on it.
Yeah, they only liked democracy when it fit a definition in their own minds, which was a very,
manifest
white supremacist.
Yeah, manifest destiny.
A white supremacist. Sure. This is a white Christian ethno-state.
Sure.
That's the kind of democracy they can support. But somehow the racism is so deep.
Sure.
That just the idea that other people matter is too much.
It's too much. And it is leaked over into, and not really leaked over into, it's just reared its ugly head again, women. And I think that women are now becoming a real trigger point in this society as far as what direction we're going in, as far as leadership is concerned, and their rights, and not only their rights to their bodies, but their intellectual rights. Their right to be taken seriously. That's eroding, or people are attempting to erode it. And that is of real concern. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to get the point about that, too. Now, I know a certain number of conservatives that are really upset about human trafficking. That's like, oh, we got to do something about human trafficking.
Because they pretend that white girls are being snatched out of suburban homes and sent to Saudi Arabia.
And I think that that's a big motivating factor, because when they talk about it, that's what the focus generally is. They're not talking about all of these other types of young ladies that are also being abused, too. I rarely hear that discussed. It's always like, the cute girl named Sally that something horrible has happened to. And I'm tragically upset about that, too. But I also care about all of these other young ladies and young people, period. It's not just a lady thing. It's a anybody thing at times as well. So they're very, selective about what they want to get behind or what's important to them. Nobody's closed down strip clubs. Whatever, there's certain states now that have put like age blocks on porn on the internet, but like, whatever, what's that gonna do? Nothing, who cares? But there's still all of these other ways to have access to adult entertainment. And it's not really about adult entertainment. It's about how we raise our children and our community and our values, and where we see the importance of people and what they can contribute. And, for me, I have some real concerns about that, because I get to be around a lot of people that are younger than me, and they don't care. They're just sitting on their hands. They're just thinking this is going to blow over, or they don't care. They hope it all burns or it goes to hell or whatever. And they kind of think it's funny. They've turned into the Joker generation.
Yeah, nihilistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because they feel the system. I mean, I guess I understand it at an emotional level, that they are like, okay, we're the first generation that's told we'll have it worse than our parents.
Yeah.
So fuck it, burn it down. Yeah. And it's like, no, you can't.
I'm going to say something that's pretty messed up, and this is a shout out to all of my disenfranchised, privileged, young, white friends. Get the fuck over it. When I was growing up as a kid, you know what it was like to grow up as a kid and be a black kid? There were two types of black kids. There were the ones that went to class and wanted to do something, that paid attention in school. And then there were the other black kids that were like, fuck it, whatever. It's never going to matter. I'm going into the streets. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to sell drugs. I'm going to rap. I'm going to do all this other crap.
Yeah.
I'm going to play basketball or whatever. That's old hat. So that's why when these white kids come around me with their bullshit, I'm like, get out of here. I knew black kids I was growing up with that were saying that shit. You know where they are? Dead or in jail. That's where you end up, or crazy. That's where you're going. Yeah, and they don't understand that.
Yeah, you pretend it's unwinnable.
And once you do, you are defeated. You are defeated.
By the way, a white kid pretending that it's an unwinnable situation
is a joke. It's a joke and an insult to my intelligence. And they come around me. I'm a black person, and they come around me doing that shit. And I'm a black person, and sometimes I'm paying them to be on my set, and they're still doing it. And I have to tell them, Get away from me. Go tell it to a white person. I'm a black person. I got pride, dignity. Don't you see the African art hanging on the wall in my office? I feel like I'm somebody. That's the only attitude that I want. You need to be somebody too. But they don't think they have to be. And they think it's okay for them to be all fucking negative and come around people of color. It's an insult. It's an insult. And they act like they're your friends.
They think they're commiserating about the unfairness of the world.
Nah.
But what they're really doing is accidentally flexing their privilege
to
do so.
But they want to hang out with you, they want to smoke pot with you, go drink with you, have sex with you. Also, they're cool with all that. They're kicking it, listening to your music, all this other stuff. But they don't want to be about anything. They want this to be easy. It's not easy. It's hard for everybody. Dr. King really tried to make that point right before they shot him. John F. Kennedy made that point at his inauguration. Ask not what you can do for your, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's the point. What the fuck? And then Malcolm X, by any means necessary. We've been down these paths over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But nobody cares and nobody wants to listen. And they only give a shit about like the latest Billie Eilish or Taylor Swift release. And they'll go spend money to go to a concert to see Taylor Swift. But they won't spend any money or time to say, I'm going to go stand up and I'm going to go march for something that I fucking believe in. Or I'm just going to march my dumb ass down to the voting booth and fucking vote.
That was I'm
clowns.
So tempted. You probably know it. Like, what percentage of people under 30 voted last November? Or
small.
Around?
I think it was under 20%. Something anemic.
Something, and it was actually quite close everywhere. So that generation actually chose this future.
They think it's funny. They're playing a game with the rest of their lives. They're digging their own hole. I think that they have successfully ruined their generation because the one coming behind them is just going to leapfrog over them. They're not going to pay any attention to them. We leave generations for dead now. That's become clear. We don't care about anybody anymore. It is a free-for-all. It's the wild, wild west again. Survival of the fittest. You'll survive, I'll survive. But for us, it's like we have to make choices and we've got to cut bait with things. And it's tough because we have to get the support that's necessary to make it happen. And if that support's not there, we can't do it. And we're smart enough to know that because we're survivors, because we come from two cultures that are survivalist cultures,
particularly families that put emphasis on education.
Right, always. Like, you know what I mean? You wouldn't have gotten out of your house alive without an education. Right, neither would I. But now you've got people raising their kids like, you can do whatever you want to do. It's okay. No, it's not. These kids are they get to do whatever the fuck they want to do, and they just like ride their sort of familial support, and they're good with it. And they have no shame to their game. They're not trying. I'm not saying that your families can't help you out and support you. I think that's terrific, but try, for the love of God, do something. I don't feel good today. I'm not at my best. They all want to have shrinks and be medicated and they want to hang out. But then the minute they want to go party, they all of a sudden, they like, whoop, I'm going to go hang out. I'm going to go party. They're crazy. And nobody's time for that.
Yeah, and they do the one thing I can't take. Actually, I did kind of split up with a friend who boasted that he didn't vote. And I'm like, well, if you didn't vote, then you can't comment.
Right.
And he's like, but I want to express my opinions. And
you don't have it.
You only had one chance. If you tell me right now that you did vote and you just won't tell me who you voted for, that's up to you. But if you tell me you stayed home, then you don't have a right to complain. And the people who complain the most are the people who stayed home, it seems. And
absolutely.
It's unfathomable that you would have. How can you? It is literally like telling me the Earth is flat. Telling me you didn't vote is like telling me telling me that your vote didn't count. When we are aware that we are like in a 50-50 world right now.
Right.
And every vote counts.
Right.
Like the math is, I guess they're really bad at math too. but I can't wrap my head around, and we might be losing our right to vote.
They're trying.
They're gonna change something.
They're gonna do something. They're gonna injure our right to vote.
You look at, I was in Turkey right before Erdogan. Mm-hmm. And I was actually in Hungary right before Orban. Orban or Orban? I think it's Orban. But two democracies that kind of stopped being democracies, and they managed, and then they got authoritarians who managed to turn the vote into a 90% Putin type bullshit vote. So I mean, we are facing that.
Absolutely.
We have a government, we have leadership
Sure.
whose goal is to have full authority and get rid of checks and balances.
Right. We have leadership in place that it is rumored that this individual that is our agreed upon leader has been a Russian cell since he was in his 40s. That's just a rumor.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not saying I just see him as a
clown. I get it, but the fact is, okay,
not a clown. I think he's actually, in his own way, brilliant because he got successful. Right. He took his dad's shit and he fucked it up. But by cozying up to the mob, he was able to be who he was, like a joke in New York, but a known name that got a TV show. And I just think he's cozying up to Putin and others because he's like, hey, you cozy up to the people more powerful than you.
But, when you lay with pigs, you get up with mud on you. And so these rumors, these innuendos start. So does it matter if he really is a Russian cell or not? No. It's perception is 9/10 of the law. He's marching into that really weird space, even for me as a black man. I get pulled over by the cops. They don't care, that my parents are educated, my grandparents were educated, I'm educated, I'm a decent guy, I've never committed a crime in my life. You know what I am? A black guy they just pulled over. That's all they're thinking. And so that's one of the big problems we have with our society. Nobody gets the benefit of the doubt. Perception is 9/10 of the law. And our current president is slowly creeping into that space.
Or rushing into it.
Rushing.
He's rushing to be Russian.
He's rushing to be Russian. And that's not going to go well for him. And a part of the motivation with this is that he's going to make a lot of money. And then a part of the motivation, I think, with a lot of the people that are his constituents is they're going to make a lot of money. This is a tremendous opportunity. Let's get more of these people involved in our country because they're white, just like in South Africa with the Afrikaners. They can come here. And then this whole plan of, you can get the gold card. And if you can pay $5 million, you can come to the country or whatever. That's code word for white people can come to America, but not people of color. They don't want any more people of color in America. They don't want any more black and brown people in America. They're real clear about that. If they thought they could kick me the fuck out, they'd kick me the fuck out.
Or just take away your right to vote.
Or they'll just take away my right to vote. They'll just come up with creative ways to neutralize me.
Although they do, in your state, they made sure that, depending on where you live, it probably didn't happen, but in a majority, a neighbor that was a majority minority, they made sure that there was one polling place where in a white neighborhood it would have been 5, right?
Sure.
They make sure there's a long line so people turn around and go home.
Right. I've already been protested against, banned at film festivals, mysteriously not invited back or whatever, because I have a documentary about Donald Trump. And so a festival that shall be not be named, or be nameless, I guess, that I had been in quite a bit. One that you're very familiar with, one that you know as well. Now all of a sudden I'm too political and I can't be in the festival anymore. They're going to say, oh, no, that's not going to be good for us. And then I had another film that's about Asian Americans that were emigrating to America from Burma, and they voted me in. The judges thought that my film was good enough to be in the film festival, and then 24 hours later, they sent me another note and said, sorry, you can't be in the film festival. there's that. And then I was protested by, and this organization, I will stand up and say something. It was the Black Journalistic Society of Orlando, Florida, protested the film that you have screened over the past several years that just screened out here, over the weekend, which is Pre-Existing Freedom. Black journalists protested that film. They didn't like the way that film made them feel about the relationship between black people, blackness, and the media. They didn't like it.
I
know. It was beyond it.
I don't have words.
Who does?
Especially because it was also a film about isolation.
Exactly. So they missed the whole point with it. The other film in Florida was the Vero Beach Film Festival. And I don't give a fuck if they ever let me screen in their festival again. But the fact that they said that I could be in the festival and then 24 hours later they said that I couldn't, what kind of shit is that? And it was just a film about people emigrating from Burma who were fleeing genocide. They're refugees. And I just happen to be a black man who is in support of the Asian American community. Get out of here. But that's where we are. So they're coming for everybody. They certainly have started marching in my direction. And I do have some concerns about the films that I screen now. And the films that I've made in the past have even more of an effect now. And I can't screen anything anymore that has Donald Trump in the name. I'm not allowed to say anything about Donald Trump. And I guess no one is, which is crazy.
I understand wanting to deprive him of oxygen, because he lives on attention.
Sure.
But I don't understand banning criticism. Or discouraging criticism.
Exactly, but they interpret anything that is not lauding over him and praising the Reich as criticism. They're reinterpreting the concept of criticism.
We are literally facing the biggest crisis
easily in the past 80 years without,
But I think this year they are going to try to rewrite libel laws to do away with independent journalism.
They would love to do away with independent journalism.
They'll make it illegal to criticize the leader.
Absolutely.
And at that point, wow.
You're going to have anarchy.
We are. The union will not. It'll be interesting.
It will divide. It will split. It will go underground.
I'm one of those people who says Rome didn't fall. Modern day Europe is actually the Roman Republic evolved into real democracy, was this country for a while. But you know what I mean? Like the idea, it became a dictatorship, but the ideas didn't die.
Right.
So
it's always been a push-pull. It's always been there.
It's always a push-pull.
Yeah, it's still there, and it still exists in many places.
But if they succeed in destroying what was created in this nation, I still believe that we will split apart so that we can split into a democracy and whatever you want to call the criminal state that has a kleptocracy. Actually, it's kleptocracy.
Sure,
it's not really authoritarianism as much as it's kleptocracy, right? Because there's not. It really is just. It's just theft.
Good old-fashioned
like I know I do consider Trump racist. I always did, actually. When I would watch that TV show.
My aunts in Jamaica, Queens considered him racist from the 70s. My dad, who worked at his stupid fucking casinos playing with music groups, considered him fucking racist. He didn't even pay the band. That was the kind of person that he was. I considered him racist. When I first got started in this business, I used to do videos for John Casablancas. And there was always rumor of him running around with his penis out in front of all of these young girls. It was always talk. I'm completely aware of how much of an asshole he is and has always been my entire life. I do not know a world without him in it being a dickhead. Period.
But I was going to say that to him, even if he is exactly that person, he just uses it to his advantage.
Sure.
He doesn't give a fuck about the Klan, but you know what I mean. But he just uses racism as a trigger to gain
absolutely
power to sell Bibles to fools.
He's running it like a rap music video or rap music label, like Suge Knight or Sean Puffy Combs or whatever. Like, they didn't care about anybody. They didn't care that all of these gangsters are running around pulling a lot of bullshit around them because they were making money. They're utilitarian in nature. It's a means to an end. Whatever it takes to get from A to B, and that's the only thing that they're really focused on. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, it's run its course with them. Now how it's going to run its course with Trump is a little bit different, because if you're going to be that type of sociopathic a-hole, it's better to be white and do it. You've got more runway. I try to tell my other sociopathic black friends all the time, like, slow down. There's an end to all of this. You're not going to get as far as you think. It's not worth being an asshole when you are a person of color. It's not worth being an asshole when you're a Jew. It's not worth being an asshole when you're a woman or you're a gay person or you're Latin American or you're Asian or whatever, or transgendered or whatever, or gay, whatever. It's not worth it. It's not worth being an asshole. Assholery only pays if you are a white dude that is committed to certain types of conservative belief systems, and you're a fucking nationalist. And if that's your jam, have at it, homie.
It works here.
It works here.
That's how it works here.
Get yours. But at the same time, I'm still going to get mine, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do. You go do yours over there, but you come over here, I'm going to punch you in the nose.
Yeah.
So
if you want to be a kleptocrat, then you've got to go somewhere else.
But don't try to annex me. Right.
I do remember being in Zimbabwe and checking into the hotel, and there was a massive picture of Mugabe on the wall. Mm-hmm. And that was required by law, right? And oh my God, what he did to that country.
Unbelievable. Crushing. But learned it from the colonialists.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and they try to pin that on these African nations and these Southeast Asian nations and Latin America and things like, you see how they treat their own people, whatever. I'm like, they learned it from us colonials.
They were handpicked.
Exactly. They're clowns. Yeah. They're clowns. And, Trump is the same thing. He is a Mugabe. He's a clown. He's handpicked. He's an Idi Amin. He's a Mussolini. He's just handpicked by a bunch of, rich fuckers that want to own everything.
His nickname in this household, more so by my partner, but is Mango Mussolini.
That's cute.
Because we don't like the name Trump. We just don't, you get tired of saying it.
Oh, absolutely. My grandmother never said it.
It's a way to demean him, but...
My grandmother went all the way to her grave never saying his name. All the way to her grave. Just like, I'm not saying his name.
That's worth it.
That man. Never said it. She never said it one time to me.
Yeah.
Amazing. Astounding.
That probably felt good.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I just get mad and I blurt his name out.
Me too. I give in because even though I'm like, he doesn't deserve it.
He doesn't deserve it. Exactly.
All he deserves is our derision and our...
he's trash.
Actions, yeah.
He's just trash, and people are afraid to say anything, and people are afraid to do anything about it. And there's a lot that they can do about it, but they just choose to just run scared all the time. And that's not the correct choice. And they keep thinking like, oh, well, I can get something out of it for me, but it's not about you. It's about everyone. And like I said, my pivot is I've been forced into thinking more about me, and I hate it. I hate my pivot because I want to think about others, but now I've got to survive, so I have to think about me. That's why I sent you those pictures, and those pictures are pictures that I took that I never put out there. I never did anything with because I was always so worried about everybody else, and now I'm like, okay, I got to look at my work and put my work out there. And so I'm just focusing a lot more on...
That is the pivot. The pivot is promoting your work instead of
these other people that keep coming to me with all of their other ideas about this is an important film.
We kind of have similar pivots because my pivot for this year, really, what I learned last year, is that I have killed off a lot of side projects that mattered to me.
Me too.
because of the drain of it.
Exactly. And nobody's helping you. And you're just out there on your, and they don't care.
Trying to get help, and you try to get help, and then you find out. And by the way, I won't let myself say it because obviously I have some passion projects, and I'm always hoping for a passionate person to take the money that they're paid to do and also still have passion, not just do it for money, but you don't get it. You don't get the passion. You only get, minimum amount of work for the pay.
Yep.
And things don't succeed that way. So I'm keeping the podcast alive, but I'm really just focusing on the festivals that are growing beautifully and that allow us to promote excellent work.
Right.
And it's funny because I don't think of it, but when I hear your story of how other festivals have treated you, I'm aware that they're, sometimes we have people who say, thank you so much for showing our film. It was controversial, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we're just showing your film because it's good.
Right.
And I always try to take that point of view. But I guess I should be a little prouder of our lack of censorship.
I think that you should be. I mean, here I am, and I'm going Jeff's treated me better than a lot of other people. It's crazy. And a lot of other people, when things were going okay, they're blowing smoke up my ass. Now that things are a little tougher, they're like, oh, well, we're not going to do that this year. I didn't go to Sundance this year. I backed out. And at first I felt bad. And then I was like, no, I don't feel bad. I'm glad I didn't go.
If I know you probably don't follow my Blue Sky, I did quit Meta Products late last year for obvious reasons. Although I admit, I pretend my reason is I whenever I post something on a Meta thing that says, come over and hang out with me on Blue Sky, I always talk about how great it is and be away from the algorithm. I just say the algorithm is like an addictive drug. I don't want that in my brain. But obviously it was really what Zuckerberg did and said. But I fucked myself up again. I'm too old to go on a tangent. What was my point?
Meta. You'll come back to it.
Blue Sky. I mean, I was just going to... It was something about Blue Sky. The fuck was I bringing up Blue Sky for? What was the subject right before that?
Look at you.
I am an embarrassment. I used to have an intellect.
To old men the world over.
I'm holding on. I tell everyone I'm going to be 60 soon.
You should stop. Just stop.
Just stop. Stop throwing the number around.
Right. Well, because your value systems, are skew lower than 60. You're not quitting. So why even worry about that anymore as a number?
That's true.
Imagine what you could do if you were 30 again and someone gave you $5 million of development money. You would crush it. Exactly. I know.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing to think about.
It's weird to think.
Yeah, so these are dilemmas that can be solved if getting into the right room with the right people. So many people that have money that I know that are between the ages of 30 to 60, they have the money, they don't have the acuity for being creative. They don't have the ideas. They don't have the concepts. They don't have the passion. They don't have the know-how. They don't have the guts. But they're running around kissing all of the wrong asses. They're not talking to innovative people like you. They're not getting into the room with you. But someone should be in the room with you and say, what you got? And say, I'm going to take a chance on this guy. Let's see what happens. That's not how business is being done these days in the industry that we both know and love so much.
Good. That was sarcasm, wasn't it?
It was. I learned that from you.
See, I'm not the only sarcastic person in this room.
No.
But we do know and love the arts and the importance of the arts.
Completely.
And the importance of what the arts can do in culture and for intellectual health.
It made us
and
who we are.
There is a marriage somewhere. There is a meeting of art and commerce, and always has been.
Right.
But it is, and now is when I tell you the truth, which is Fred and I talked for 3 hours and 39 minutes. Too long for a single podcast, right? So we're going to break it up into 3 parts. That's going to be part A. I think we're going to go with letters. Part B comes right after this in the podcast feed, so you can just stick with it. I won't bother with a big, long closer here. Just check out discoverindiefilm.com or discoverindiefilm.org. And from there, you can learn more. And, of course, there's probably clickable links for all of Fred's stuff, so there you go. Thanks for listening, and we're about to play you the next one. And who knows, maybe I'll record an intro and outro for that, too.